So with several recent videos being a wee bit negative, today I want to talk about something that excites me. I know the fact that this conversation even takes place at all will piss off some people who don't think that War Thunder is the place for more modern jets, but I can guarantee you they're coming anyway, so there's no harm in having a fun little discussion about it. War Thunder has gone full modern with the tanks and helicopters we have in game, with a whole host of vehicles available that are newer than the game itself. But what's always lagged behind are the jets we use alongside them. These days, the top jets in game are all from the mid-1970s, we've got a couple of variants from the early 80s, and it's as good as confirmed that we will be getting some later Gen 3 and even Gen 4 fighter jets soon. If you're unfamiliar with what classifies a jet as being from a certain generation, by the way, then go check out this pinned video from my other channel, Armorcast. It's where I've transitioned to making all the real-life military bios and documentaries you might have missed from this channel, so please do go subscribe if you're interested, it would mean a lot. In this video though, I want to talk about what's next, specifically in the realm of top tier jets. Now I am such a fan of our current 3rd generation jet fighters in War Thunder that I kind of plan to make it my thing in the content spectrum here on YouTube and advocate for it the way some YouTubers have basically adopted naval, poor bastards, with a couple of videos and more dogfights coming that I think you lads are going to really enjoy. Because of that, discussing what might be on the horizon for this part of the game in the next 2 years makes me really excited, if for no other reason than I get more dogfights to do. But there are a couple of things I want to get out of the way beforehand. In one of our recent videos, we talked about all the aspects of air battles that need changing for more modern jets to work, and even our current jets to work properly, so I'll put that in the cards and the video description below for you to check out. Now as for more modern jets bringing more advanced air-to-ground ordnance and being unfair to tanks, if you thought AGM-65As were bad, this could be fixed by better map design which forces aircraft to engage along predictable routes and allows vehicles to take cover and avoid detection from the air while still being involved in the ground battle. Honestly, Folder might be the best place to see this, and it's way too rare. Please stop downvoting Folder in your top tier tanks. The general design behind Karelia and Carpathians is also great for this as a template, but the maps themselves are designed for rank 1s and 2s, they're way too small for top tier. What could also be implemented is a limit on how many aircraft can spawn in on a team at the same time. Say if there are already 3 jets on your team, the game won't let you spawn in a 4th. If you die, too bad. The same could be done for helicopters too, and the last change would be to force aircraft to take off from the runway and move the airfields in top tier tank games further back. Yes, it means more downtime, but it's worth it, and these generations of jets scramble so fast that it really won't be a significant hamper. Now that we've gotten those prerequisites out the way, we can start talking about what jets are likely to come and what they'll bring to the table as far as weapons systems. But before we do, I want to thank today's video sponsor, Iron Conflict. You lads all know them by now. This is an online multiplayer action strategy game featuring all sorts of tanks, aircraft, artillery, infantry, and oh, you thought we were done? Well, the team behind Iron Conflict actually reached out to me to let me know that the game is now host to a whole family of attack helicopters, such as the legendary Cobra, Z10 or Viper. Build your own combination of 3 unit types for each battle, including these new rotary birds with multiple unique weapons and abilities to help the budding commander wreak havoc out in the battlefield. Choose how you play and what to specialise in, or attempt to master every combination possible. You've got hundreds of iconic vehicles across multiple nations, with more coming soon like Britain and Russia, huge dynamic battlefields with as many as 60 units in play, and continuous updates bringing more content to you. With new maps and features as well, there's never been a better time to hop into early access and check it out. Iron Conflict, proud sponsors of the Scottish Koala. So, what I'm going to do is start by talking about US examples and jets that fit into the US tree, then we'll talk about the Soviet counterparts, and finish off with the other nations. Just know that there are counters and alternatives for each nation at each level, even if I don't mention them specifically. There's a lot to get through here. We're also using the game's current level of compression, so even though the F4E and MiG-21 BIS should be 11.3 to kind of space things out, and we've already talked about how close air support and the way Gaijin balances it is incorrect, we're going to take things the way they are right now to suggest battle ratings for jets in the future. So the first thing I want to say is that there are a bunch of jets that could already fit into rank 6, like the F101C Voodoo, the F7U Cutlass, and many others, and I'd like to see them all come to the game eventually, plus equivalents for the Soviets and Germans and what have you. But the first thing I want to talk about here is the F8 Crusader. We finally got the Crusader with the IKVA Strike update, but not the signature variant, the F8E. This jet used a radar homing variant of the AIM-9D Sidewinder called AIM-9C, similar to how the Soviet R3R is just a radar homing R3S. The F8E was also the variant the French Navy used, so it makes a lot of sense to add. After the F8E and the US Navy fighter line should come the naval variant of the Phantom, the F4J. Now that Gaijin has modelled pulse Doppler radar for the British Phantoms and some other aircraft, the F4J, which also had it, would be very nice. Now the US Navy Phantoms never used a 20mm even in a gun pod, but missile load will really improve the F4J, as it would get AIM-9Gs, maybe AIM-9H, and AIM-7E2s, which have a higher load factor of 25 Gs and start manoeuvring straight off the rails, making them much more consistent than our current AIM-7Es. Couple them with a pulse Doppler radar and better speed and acceleration, and the F4J will be a beast of BVR. Next, the Northrop F5, which we also just got in the Chinese tree as the F5A. This variant has AIM-9P sidewinders and no radar, but the later variant F5E, named Tiger II, which we have had confirmed to be coming, had more powerful engines, a capable search and track radar, and two AIM-9P5s, which are all-aspect missiles, comparable to the R60M you see on Russian helicopters. What's good about this is that it balances R60Ms, which the MiG-21 BIS will likely get in a future update, because AIM-9Ls far outclass R60Ms. Now the F5E could be a 10.7 aircraft given that it never carried any radar homing missiles, and although its Fox 2s are all aspect, it only carries 2 of them, plus its top speed of only Mach 1.4. The MiG-21 BIS though with R60Ms would definitely need to be 11.0 currently, and even higher with some decompression. As for ground attackers in the US Rank 6, the last to come would be the A6B Intruder, which carried the AGM-45 Shrike, an anti-radiation missile based on the Sparrow, and AIM-9Ds alongside several thousand pounds of conventional bombs. The Shrike, as an early anti-radiation missile, was not overly accurate or maneuverable, and would lose lock if the target were to switch off its radar. Now, one thing you might not know about the Intruder is that it was insanely quick. Even fully combat-loaded A6s would routinely outspeed their F-14 escorts. The Tomcats actually needed to use their afterburners to keep up. After this, we step into Rank 7 jet territory, with the F-14, F-15 and F-16. These I actually want to talk about all at once, as they're quite similar aircraft, all belonging to the 4th generation of fighters, and all having relatively similar capabilities and flight performance. The F-16 would be the most nimble of the three, with the highest thrust to weight ratio, while the F-14 and F-15 were a wee bit heavier, though all could outturn a MiG-21 with ease. The first to come, I think, will be the F-16A, following the F-5E at a PR of 11.3. Once again, that's with our current level of decompression and not where I actually think it should be. Now the reason for this is that the initial F-16As carried no radar homing missiles, only 6 AIM-9s, and when the Falcon first entered service, that was the AIM-9J. This way, the F-16A is a performance upgrade over the Phantom and the Tiger II, without also having much better weapons, while the F-16C could carry AIM-9Ls and AIM-7Ms at a higher BR. The AIM-7M was much more capable than preceding Sparrows. To avoid one of these, you'll have to know how to defeat it properly. You won't just be able to pull enough Gs to just dodge it. Also at 11.3 could come the F-14A Tomcat in the naval fighter line, equipped with AIM-7E4s and AIM-9Hs, 4 of each, just like the Phantoms. At 11.7 with the F-16C would be the F-14D, carrying AIM-9Ls, and the AIM-54 Phoenix, which was a very fast active radar homing missile. Now, active radar homing missiles, or Fox 3s, allow the aircraft to launch the missile and then turn fully away from the target to retain distance, while the missile keeps tracking based on its own radar. Although the F-14A did carry the Phoenix as well, denying it to the A model in this way makes it a wee bit less of a significant step up from its predecessor, and gives Gaijin more time to improve the servers to handle Fox 3 type missiles. Now, don't shoot the messenger, but I also think we will see a premium Tomcat in either the F-14B or an Iranian F-14, Iran being the only other nation to ever use it. And honestly, Gaijin would be crazy to not jump on that opportunity, so I think we can pretty much guarantee that coming. So if the F-16A and F-14A come in at 11.3, and the F-16C and F-14D come in at 11.7, what about the F-15 Eagle? Now, despite preceding the F-16, the Eagle was actually more advanced and more capable overall. The F-15A could come at 11.7 alongside the later Viper and Tomcat, equipped again with 4 AIM-9Ls and 4 AIM-7Ms. Then we get to the F-15C, which would finish us off at 12.0 with the post-Gulf War AIM-120B AMRAAM active radar homing missile that replaced the Sparrow, along with AIM-9M sidewinders even more capable than the Ls. All these missiles are the kind that you can't really dodge by pulling the aircraft as tight as possible. They will pull tighter, up to 36 Gs on the AIM-9M, so we do not want to have them fighting F4s and other third generation aircraft. The last fighter aircraft worth mentioning, also at 12.0, would be the FA-18 Hornet, the naval fighter that replaced the Tomcat. The Hornet would be the most nimble of all of these aircraft, with a very high angle of attack and a turning circle less than half as wide as a MiG-21's. The Hornet could carry up to 8 AMRAAMs and 2 AIM-9Ms, making it the most well-equipped jet, although it was slower than the Eagle and Viper, with worse acceleration and energy retention. It also carried the most as far as air-to-ground weaponry, although the others did carry Mavericks and bombs and such too. I also really like the number of jets at this level, all with pros and cons. It'll make Air RB much more diverse and give you more choice in ground battles. Now, as far as attackers in rank 7, we will get to the A-10, but before that, the A-6E Intruder, which would carry Mavericks, specifically AGM-65Bs, which had an aiming camera that could zoom in, as well as the AGM-88 Harm, a more advanced anti-radiation missile than the Shrike of the previous variant, with much longer range and the capability of homing in on the last known position of a target, even if the target's radar were to be switched off. This means that the only way to escape a Harm once launched would be to turn off the radar and then actually move a good distance away. There's also the Aviate-B Harrier II, an upgraded Harrier with better engines, a radar, and the ability to carry up to 4 Mavericks or AIM-9Ms on 6 hardpoints, so 4 Mavericks and 2 Sidewinders or vice versa, along with a 25mm cannon. They could also mount the AGM-122 Sidearm, a smaller anti-radiation missile based on the Sidewinder, with a smaller warhead and much more limited range than Harms or even Shrikes. Then you've of course got the A-10 Thunderbolt II or Warthog with the 30mm GAU-8 Avenger, you know, the... And if you've ever used the 30mm gun pods on the A-7D with 100mm penetration, you'll be very excited for the 150mm pen on the A-10. Along with the GAU-8, the A-10 could carry both the Paveway series of laser-guided bombs and the JDAM series of GPS-guided bombs, based on the 500, 1000 or 2000 pound Mark 80 series bombs we already see in game, as well as the AGM-65D, which had a thermal imaging camera to aim them. Now, having the Paveways as stock armament with the Mavericks and JDAMs as modifications will be necessary, as the A-10 is exclusively designed for CAS. It cannot be expected to stock grind its ordnance by trying to gun down fighters in air battles. The problem is it's very slow, with a top speed of only around 700 kph, and that's with a clean wing, so expect more like 500 kph fitting a full air-to-ground loadout. There's also the potential for either the YA-9 or YA-10 prototypes to come as premiums, both equipped with the 20mm Vulcan rather than the 30mm Avenger. Now, this thing would be kind of a pain to fly. It did carry 2 AIM-9Ms for self-defense, but given its later Mavericks, which would be its main weapon, it would at least be good enough for the same BR as the faster and more useful, more applicable A-6E Intruder to finish off the US attacker line. Now that's it for America, but of course the F-16 could be given to Italy, along with Japan's modification, the F-2. Japan could also get the F-15, and the British could get their own version of the Harrier II, which carried up to 6 Sidewinders alongside Mavericks and Paveways. There's also the British Sea Harrier, which could come in 2 variants, the FRS-1 with AIM-9Ls at 11.0, and the radar-equipped FA-2 carrying AMRAAMs at 11.3. And let's not forget the Italian Navy's Aviate-Bs. The Germans have also had their F4F Phantom confirmed to be coming, and while the F4F carried only early Sidewinders and no Sparrows, making it pretty well ineffective, the ICE upgrade in the mid-1990s gave the F4F the ability to carry AIM-120Bs, making it good for an 11.3 BR. Now, as for the Russians, we're looking first at the MiG-23ML, which could also be given to Germany, and this was a 3rd generation fighter, more comparable to the Phantom than the F-14 Tomcat, say, even though this variant did enter service a year after the Tomcat and has that variable geometry or swing wing. The early MiG-23s were very sluggish, to the point where they make the F-104 look nimble, but the MiG-23M variants did at least allow them some level of maneuverability, not that you'd ever want to dogfight in them. The MiG-23ML would bring a very powerful engine and the ability for BVR weaponry in the R-23 and later R-24 semi-active radar homing missiles, equivalent to the AIM-7Es we have in game. This would create an interesting meta, where the US F4s and Soviet MiG-23s compete in high-altitude BVR engagements, and the MiG-21 BIS and the F5Es rival each other in close-in dogfighting. Now, the MiG-21 BIS with R60Ms will likely prove better than the MiG-23ML, carrying more missiles and being much more maneuverable, but the MiG-23ML could carry 2 R-23 or R-24 missiles alongside 2 R-60Ms, as well as KH-23s, and would fit at a BR of 11.0 alongside the BIS. The MiG-27 was a dedicated ground attack variant of the MiG-23 without radar, and adds the ability to carry KH-25s, although I don't really see this aircraft being worth adding, and we'll talk about why in a moment. The Russian competitor to the F-16A would be the MiG-29A, bringing the Russians into rank 7. The MiG-29A could carry 4 R-60Ms alongside 2 R-27ER or R-27ET missiles, the ER being a true comparator to the AIM-7M, while the ET was a BVR infrared missile, something the US never really had. The upgraded MiG-29M would then end up at 12.0 with the F-15C and the Hornet. The MiG-29M updated the Fulcrum's controls to fly-by-wire, making it much more maneuverable, and introduced the R-73E missiles comparable to the AIM-9M, as well as R-77s to counter the AMRAAMs. The MiG-29S was a kind of interim variant that could make for a good premium. Stepping over to the F-15's rival, the Flanker, the Russians never really had a comparator to the Tomcat. The Su-27, which carried up to 10 air-to-air missiles, 6 R-27s and 4 R-73Es, as well as being extremely maneuverable. Now, I'd put this aircraft at 11.7, matching the F-15A. Once again, this is without decompression and not where I think these aircraft should actually go, much higher than that. But this does beg the question of which line it would go in and what would precede it, that would likely require a restructuring of the Soviet jet tray. What comes after the Su-27 at 12.0 would be the Su-33, again able to carry R-73 and R-77 missiles. This is a naval variant of the Flanker, counterpart to the Hornet, with the capability for 12 missiles in total, including various air-to-ground and anti-radiation missiles. For attackers, there's the Frogfoot, the Su-25, counterpart to the A-10, with initial variants relying on the KH-25 and the later Su-25T using Vickers missiles, but before that there's the Su-17M4 with various air-to-ground and anti-radiation missiles, along with R-60Ms for self-defense. Now, this aircraft is the main reason I don't see the MiG-27 really being worth adding, as it would basically be the same thing but without radar. Maybe the MiG-27 comes in as a premium. Now, I did just miss out on some aircraft like the Su-15 or Yak-28, and I want to say briefly that as far as I've heard, Gaijin is not keen on trying to model 4.5th gen fighters, so that means no Strike Eagle or Super Hornet, no Su-30 or Su-35, and none of the Eurocanards, the Typhoon, Rafale or Gripen. That means that Sweden will end up with the AJS-37 Viggen after first the AJ-37, which will likely come next patch, it's in the files, and the JA-37 in between, which was more of a fighter-focused variant or upgrade. The French will get the 3rd generation Mirage F1C, which carried 2 Magic and 2 R530F missiles. These are similar to AIM-7E2s, and honestly, I'm surprised the Mirage F1 isn't here already. And then finish up at 11.7 with the Mirage 2000C, carrying up to 5 missiles, including Magic 2s, which are all aspect. Italy have the option of the F-104S ASA, which carried AIM-9Ls, and the Aspide, which is a Fox 1 missile similar to the AIM-7M. And the British Skyflash is the same thing, which I think the FGR-2 should receive and go to a higher battle rating, separating it from the FG-1. For Britain and Germany, there's the Tornadoes, both the IDS and ADV versions, so we may see Britain get the Tornado GR1, GR4, and then F3, with various different missiles and ground ordnance as upgrades over each other. And Italy actually used 3 different variants of the Jaguar, the IDS and ADV variants, as well as the Tornado ECR, which was a dedicated attack variant equipped with AGM-88 harms. There's also the Jaguar GR3 to add with AIM-9Ms and more advanced ground attack options. We already discussed the later Harriers, Germany gets a MiG-29, and this era is actually where China gets really interesting, with the J-11 and J-15 being basically copies of the Su-27 and Su-33, but the J-8, JH-7 and J-10 offering a bit of uniqueness. The J-72M is an upgraded J-7 with PL-7 missiles, Chinese designation for the R550 Magic, and the Chinese also have the SD-10, which is comparable to the AMRAAM or R-77, as well as various other air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles that could be added to their jets. The JF-17 Thunder is basically a brother to the F-16 with Chinese missiles, and the FCK-1 Qingguo is a domestically designed Taiwanese jet built to replace their F-5Es. So this is all very exciting. As I said, there are plenty more options and unique jets, but those are the main ones I wanted to discuss, and this video is getting pretty long, so I'll end it there. Of course, as I said to start with, the game is not ready for all of this yet. No way. Some changes need to come first, please Gaijin, and we definitely want some decompression. I do not think that these jets belong at BRs like 11.3 and 12.0. I feel like I've said this too many times already. This was just meant to be a fun little discussion about how these jets might be added, what order they might come in, and how they might balance each other out. I am fortunate enough to have had some people show me images that they weren't meant to show me under NDA of F-14s and also MiG-25s, that's something I didn't mention, in the works, in development for War Thunder, but to protect them, I'm not going to make those images public just now. Just know that they are definitely coming already, and in my opinion, this would be the best way to organise these jets. Please let me know if you have any different opinions or anything you want to add to the conversation in the comments down below. If you have any questions or you think there's anything I left out, I do stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, link below. Check out Iron Conflict, thank you to them for sponsoring this video, and until next time lads, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the battlefield. 3, 2, 1, launch. Box 1. Oh come on, you can track that. That's gonna track, right? Yep, that's tracking. You may be able to pull out of that. I'm going to get one of these ready. Yep, there we go. Nice, down you go.